New Jersey's longest-serving Senate president continues the good fight, even though he's out of office. This is the IssuesWatch podcast. Hi, I'm Jeff Kazerman, Vice President of Government Relations at the New Jersey Society of CPAs, and welcome to the IssuesWatch podcast. Today, I'm talking with former New Jersey Senate President Steve Sweeney, a Democrat who served in that role for 12 years, a record number in modern New Jersey history. His legislative district included portions of Gloucester and Cumberland counties and all of Salem County. In his 20 years in the Senate, he earned a reputation as an outspoken, pro-business Democrat who had no qualms about tackling the really tough political issues, like reforming the state's public workers' pension system and consolidating local governments. He was also known for reaching across the aisle to achieve important reforms, like capping local government spending at 2%. In 2018, Senator Sweeney created the New Jersey Economic and Fiscal Policy Work Group that released the Path to Progress report, which proposed more than 25 recommendations to get the state on a sounder fiscal foundation and to spur economic growth. The Society's CEO, Ralph Thomas, was a member of the panel. In the 2021 elections, where Democrats across the state did worse than expected, Senator Sweeney lost his seat. However, he certainly hasn't withdrawn from politics and public policy, and that will be the main focus of our discussion today. Welcome, Senator.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Let's get this question out of the way first, since it's top of mind to many. Do you think you'll be running for governor in 2025, or that you'll be running again for your old Senate seat?
You know, Jeff, I'm not sure where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do. I never planned on any of this. You know, my political career actually started with, the birth of my daughter. You know, I'm a union iron worker. You know, I had a daughter born with a disability, and I decided instead of just complaining, I'd do something about it, and I did something about it. So wherever life takes you, it takes you, and we'll see where that goes.
Got it. So one more political question before we move into more policy-specific items. We've shared a very close and incredibly productive relationship with you and your staff for many years now. So we were surprised that your district fell victim to the statewide backlash against Democrats in the 2021 elections. In addition to your race, Democrats, of course, across the board didn't do as well as expected. Governor Murphy won by a narrower margin than expected, and the Democrats lost, I think, was 7 seats in the legislature. So what happened? Why do you think the Democrats did worse than expected?
Well, everyone thinks New Jersey's this blue of blue states, and I've been saying for quite some time, we're not. We're a purple state. There are a lot of Reagan Democrats in this state, especially down where I live, Jeff.
Yep. I know that.
My district, Donald Trump won both times. Wow. He won in 16 and he won in 20. And, there was a lot of anger over the election. Then COVID comes along. And I've said this to people, COVID caused a struggle for me personally, because I fought with the governor when I thought I needed to fight with him. And during a pandemic, it's hard you got to take a different tact. And, people were just very angry. And I remember telling my caucus on multiple occasions, I have to get elected too. My district has been a Republican district since I've been there. Former Speaker of the Assembly, Jack Collins, came out of that district.
Oh. Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Jeff, so my district's the equivalent of Senator Kristen Corrado's as far as Republican Democrat. So I've been in a Republican district because I've been a fiscally conservative Democrat for a long time.
As far as the Democrats as a whole, the governor and the legislature losing 7 seats, What do you think it was that was happening in New Jersey, or what was the feeling of the voters that led to that kind of statewide loss?
Well, listen. Again, there was a lot of anger over the pandemic. There was a lot more energy under the Republican side than the Democrat side. I hit my numbers in my district. I hit the numbers I should have gotten to win my election. What happened was we had 12,000 more people voted, and they basically all voted Republican. You know, so it wasn't like we ran a bad campaign. We did everything we thought we needed to do. And honestly, if they put Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse, most likely that was going to win. It's just that's how angry they were at incumbents. My district, Phil Murphy lost by 15%, 15 points. I lost by 3.
Wow, that's interesting.
And that's very rare when the people under the top of the ticket outvote the top of the ticket. Normally, the top of the ticket is the high vote getter, and I outvoted the governor by probably 10,000 votes.
Right. Yeah. So it's too bad for his sake that he didn't catch on to your coattails. So can you tell us about the newly established Steve Sweeney Center for Public Policy, which is at Rowan University? Not only does it have your name, but you serve as the chair of the advisory board. What are its goals and how is it structured?
Well, first, Jeff, to make it clear, it's an unpaid chairmanship, because some people were like, was this a way of getting paid? And it's not. I'm really excited about this, Jeff. We had other universities offering, but Rowan's in my backyard. It's a school that I'm very, very proud of. Leadership with Dr. Ali Hushman is phenomenal. He's taken the school from 8,000 kids to 23,000.
Wow.
You know, it's one of 2 schools in the country that have an MD, a DO, and now a veterinary program. It's Rowan University in Michigan State. Think about that.
Yeah,
National.
that's amazing.
And
used to be Glassboro, right?
Yeah, it used to be Glassboro College. And we've taken Rowan during my term as Senate President from basically a teaching school with 8,000 kids to a research university with, again, now 3 different medical schools. So Rowan stands out nationally. It's the 4th fastest growing school in the country. And that's good for the economy in South Jersey. But more importantly, we wanted, Jeff, to create, not having the burden of leading the Senate now. You can put the partisan things aside and start focusing on what really needs to get done. In New Jersey, you have a far left think tank, you have a far right think tank, and mine's a bipartisan think tank at Rowan University that's going to drive policy discussions that are very meaningful, important. I'm very fortunate Mark Magyar, who was my policy guy in the Senate and really did a lot of very important pieces of legislation with me, is going to head the center. We're going to have a couple fellows, Mike Vanchek and Lucille Davier, coming along, because we want to focus on multi-year budgeting, consensus forecasting. We want to focus on school regionalization. Jeff, everyone says they don't like taxes in the state. They're too high. Well, anyone that thinks you can do anything different than what we're doing right now without change, if you're not going to change, like I tell people, if you want more affordable taxes, we can still guarantee you the best services in the country. We just can't have this a la carte government that we have, where you have too much government. And once people make those decisions that they're willing to take a chance, we're going to be better. My home county has countywide ambulance, the only county in the state. We improved response times. And Jeff, we run half the ambulances we ran before. You know what I'm saying? There's just a great opportunity to reduce cost in this state and continue to provide good services.
The center's first initiative since being formed in March is the formation of a multi-year budget work group on which Ralph Thomas serves. Why did you choose this issue? Why is it so important to New Jersey?
because it's probably the most pressing and most important issue before us right now, Jeff. You know, New Jersey's flush with cash right now, which is, I mean, we've never seen this time, but we could be looking down a recession within a year. And doing multiple year budgeting, which, by the way, most counties do 5-year budgets and 6-year capital plans, puts you in a much better position to forecast the future and not jump into things that you're going to start this year and then cut next year, you know, or put yourself in these roller coasters. What I found out is rating agencies like to see consistency. And when you go to year, you're not going to get that. You know, the Volcker Group, they give us a D in budgeting, you know, and I'll give you a good example of how the administration can play games with budgeting. We extended an extra year for special needs kids because of the pandemic. The legislature said it was about $20 million a year for 3 years. The administration said $200 million. Guess what it came in at? 18.2.
Mm.
So, you know, having those type of wild swings, you know, in 1947, when the Constitution was put in place, there was no OLS. The Office of Legislative Services didn't exist. The only treasurer was the governor's treasurer. So I think we should update from where we were in 1947 to today and take advantage of working together to put budgets together so that we can spare ourselves from the ups and downs, the roller coaster rides that we have each year when we do a budget. I'm thrilled with Senator Sarlo and his comments and Senator Orho's comments about tackling this as a multi-year approach. And Ralph is a huge part of this group. He was a huge part of Path to Progress. And I value his opinion and his leadership, and I'm really happy that he's joined a group of probably the brightest people in the state. And it's a bipartisan group. You can't say it's a Democrat or Republican group.
Right.
It's a group that's focused on how to make New Jersey better.
How exactly does multi-year budgeting work? I was always under the impression that the New Jersey Constitution requires the adoption of a budget on an annual basis. So how would this work, multi-year budgeting?
It's pretty simple. You're just planning out years ahead, looking at all the information that you have that is coming to you to like, again, they're forecasting a real possibility of a recession right now going into 23. So you're looking beyond this year, because Jeff, if you don't look out, that's where you get all the roller coaster rides, you know, where you cut funding one year, you add it the next year, and the lack of ability to be consistent, you know, it just makes it very difficult. You know, so you might raise rates on, say, college tuition this year by dramatic numbers because things have dropped, and the next year's things have recovered. So again, it's trying to come up with a more consistent outlook, and
right.
That will help us with the rating agencies when they have a chance to look at it too. You know, I mean, they've noted the lack of this. You know, 20 states do multi-year budgeting. So that means it's doable. There's 30 states that do consensus forecasting. You know, we need to get with the times, Jeff. My home county is the only county in the state, or was the first county in the state that did countywide tax assessment. It works, but we were like 38th in the nation, and there's only a handful of counties that do it now. You know, we save money, consistency from town to town. It's just unfortunate that we resist so much here in New Jersey. I remember when we were doing the countywide tax assessment, I was told, we like our tax assessors. I'm like, who the hell likes a tax assessor? To be honest with you. You know, it's like, again, so we were able to do it, but my point is, there's not a lot of original ideas. There's a lot of ideas that they're working throughout this country that we need to look at as models to update and enhance what we have. You know, the smart guy recognizes what everyone else is doing better around them and, you know, adapts.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So this budget, multi-year budgeting, let's call it a document, is a guiding document. The state would still have to do its annual Appropriations Act, and is that correct?
Yeah, listen, this guides, this gives some, you know, some guidance going forward to try to avoid the huge cliffs that can be created by creating a new program and promising to fund it by X numbers, and the very next year, you know, seeing it go away. You know, that frustrates people too when you announce programs, or you're going to, as this budget's announced, it's going to enhance the tax relief programs. Well, if we could restructure government and make it work more efficiently, and by the way, we absolutely can, you would see tax reductions on its own.
Right, right. And I don't think that property tax, the expansion that is proposed now, is going to last very long.
None of them ever have, Jeff.
Yep,
You
yep.
know, their gimmicks, their promises, and that's what angers the public more than anything, is when you make these promises and all of a sudden, where did it go? What happened?
So reforming the state's public workers pension fund and other benefits programs has been a passion of yours for many years, and for good reason. With it, I believe the health and pension benefits eat up about 20% of each budget, each annual budget, which is a huge chunk. But as you know better than anyone, achieving such reforms in the face of stiff political opposition in this area is tremendously difficult. Do you think we'll ever see significant reforms to pension and benefit programs for public workers?
Yeah, Jeff, it has to happen. You know, the thing that's blowing my mind, to be perfectly honest with you, is that there's a movement, a bipartisan movement, to put the COLAs back. Now, those COLAs will cost billions of dollars a year in additional tax revenue. And I feel for the workers. I truly feel for the workers. But we saved the pension system from back insolvency, Republicans and Democrats, Christie and I in the legislature, back in 2010 and 11. It was going to be insolvent by, I think, 2016. So yes, I know it's been a long time since people have seen COLAs. Oh, and by the way, I'm a union person. You know what I do for a living. I work for the Ironworkers International Union. We've never had COLAs. And, you know, it doesn't mean that we're bad unions. It just means we live within our means. Now, I would love to restore a COLA to the workers. And we could, if they would be willing to do a hybrid pension system, which has been done in a whole lot of other places, Jeff. But the fact that we have arguments going on right now, at the same time we're talking about affordability, because I started talking about affordability after my election, saying, guys, you got to wake up and hear the people. They're fed up. Well, we're going to increase taxes by about $3 billion a year for a COLA payment without any significant change to the pension system. Jeff, the pension payment should be less. If let's go back in time before they screwed up with the pensions. If they hadn't played with the pensions, the pension payment would have been less than $1 billion.
Wow.
It's 7
now it's
billion.
like 6 or 7, right?
Seven.
Wow.
So think about it. Think what you could do with $6 billion. But the problem is we run in terms. Governors run in 4-year life cycles, and they don't worry about what happens because they won't be there, you know, when the music stops, you know. And unfortunately, we have a responsibility to the people that work for us and to the taxpayers to stop the games. Look, in my world, what I do for a living, you look at the numbers, and you make a decision based on the numbers. You can't give benefits without paying for them. And that's what happened here, Jeff, over the years. It was labor and management together screwing the pension system. And now adults have to come in the room and say, yeah, I'd love to give it to you, but what are you doing to change in order for me to pay for it? You know, again, they're actually talking about giving a benefit that they're not going to pay for. We finally got to 100% pension payment. I am so proud of that accomplishment that we got to 100% pension payment during my term as Senate President. And then we're going to go backwards and add $100 billion plus in cost to the pension system we just got right-sized. That'll put the pension payment over $10 billion.
Did you say that that adding the COLA would make the pension payment like 2 or 3 billion higher next year and in following years?
Yeah. Well, listen, Jeff, it's annual like this. And here's what I hear from the legislature, both sides. Well, we got a lot of money right now. Okay. Goes back to the 5-year budgeting that we were talking about, Jeff. I got money now. Does that mean I have to spend it all right now? Why can't I put some in surplus? Why can't I fix our IT? Let's fix motor vehicle. Yeah. Let's fix unemployment. Let's look within and let's fix New Jersey's government so that it functions well to serve the people. You have no idea what it was like being a legislature with the unemployment crisis that we had. You know, I mean, it's just our offices, our phones were shut down because people were just desperate. You know, when people are starving, you know, they get desperate and they shouldn't have to be that way. So my point is, I'm listening to this debate from the sidelines now, thinking they wouldn't have dared brought this up if I was the Senate President. You know what I mean? Because it would have no chance of going anywhere. And not because I want to deny people a COLA. We came up with a pension plan, a hybrid pension plan that could give workers a small COLA increase. But you got to pay for it. There's nothing in life that's free. So when something looks too good and it sounds too good, it's not real. But you know, unfortunately for us, people would rather play politics than actually manage government. And that's what we got going on right now. And it's troubling.
Right. And that, you know, that was one of the things we always liked about you, that you really didn't play games. And, you know, your first priority was managing government. I mean, a business is different than government, but just like somebody would manage a business seriously and take care of things, that was always your approach. So another tough issue is high property taxes, which have been a problem in New Jersey since I was a teenager. In a recent survey of our members, reducing property taxes was identified as the most important issue that lawmakers should address. Knowing New Jersey and all its levels of government like you do, is there anything that can be done to move the needle? And why is it so difficult to do?
Well, home rule, Jeff, home rule. And it's, someone has to lead and show that it'll be okay once you do something. You know, the path to progress actually did gain results. We passed the first school regionalization bill in like 25 years that has meaningful reform to it. We have 70 school districts around the state now looking at consolidation, which before path to progress, you would have never had anyone even considering that because it's, oh my God. But in fact, in Salem County's doing they did a countywide study for their schools. And they figured just doing back office, they could save $6 to $7 million. Jeff, that's real savings for a small, poor rural county.
Right, right.
You know, so what we explain to people is, look, like in Salem County, they don't have to close one school. They don't have to move one student. They can be in their same school with the same 4th grade history teacher or math teacher. So nothing could change except the back office, and you could save millions of dollars. So my point has always been this: there's good news and bad news about New Jersey. The bad news is the taxes are way too high.
Mm.
The good news is we can still provide those same services at a better cost once we, as taxpayers, decide we can't afford the system we have anymore.
Right.
Again, I had this, Jeff, I had this fight in Gloucester County with ambulances, with emergency services that are struggling throughout the state. They actually paid people to be at their stations while they could drive their ambulances around the courthouse, protesting that we were going to do something horrible. What we did was we improved the service, dramatically improved the service, and saved money. And that's, but again, it says Gloucester County EMS, not West Defford, not Defford,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
and I got to tell you, it's time is here. And I think people are finally getting to a point where they don't want to leave. So they're recognizing we have to do something.
Yep. So it'll probably come as no surprise to you that another priority issue for our members is reducing personal and business taxes. As I think you alluded to, New Jersey is always at the top or near the top when looking at the state tax rates, across the country. Why is this so? And, realistically, can anything be done about it?
Well, listen, working with your group, if you recall, Jeff, we eliminated the estate tax, which was a recommendation from the CPAs. And we also raised the retirement income threshold, on income tax, the threshold on retirement income.
Yep.
We took it from, if you were a couple, 20,000, and if you're single, 15,000 to over 100,000 now.
Yep.
So, again, a recommendation that we got from you guys, and we value your organization, and they were great recommendations, but the fact is New Jersey has the lowest income tax in the nation for up to the first $120,000. We have a very progressive income tax.
Right.
And I wasn't crazy about the millionaire's tax. I fought with that for several years, but went along with it when during a pandemic it was going to go back to help the middle class. Now the corporate business tax, we raised that, but we raised it after the feds dropped it from 35% to 21%. So we raised it, and we actually couched it that if the feds reverse that and raise the rates back up, that goes away. But we felt that at the time, and we worked with Ralph on this, not that he embraced it, you know what I'm saying? He didn't embrace it by any means, but we worked together to try to make it a little bit more. We created the workaround on the S corps. We did some good things. It's just, hey, look, we can greatly reduce the cost here in New Jersey. What keeps happening, Jeff, is we keep looking at more revenue to run the beast that we have. And we got to put the beast on a diet.
Right. I've never heard that term. That's a great one. And, I just learned something. I didn't know that corporate tax was coupled to the federal tax, which is really good to hear. So you mentioned the path to progress earlier. And you mentioned that I think it was the government consolidation, which was one of the reforms that has been enacted. As far as the other 25 recommendations, or it was 20 something, where do things stand with that? Were any of those other recommendations implemented?
Yeah, Jeff, we're fully funding extraordinary special education now. We went from 54% funding to 100% this year.
Wow.
which I'm really proud of, because that is a huge burden on local school districts now that the state's absorbed. We created a administrative division within the administrative law that has specific attorneys dealing with special needs, IEPs of families, because normally it's always combative environment when you're getting to that point where you're going to court, where knowing that you have judges that are experts in this area alone, gives a lot more confidence in the decisions. And now that, again, we're paying 100% of extraordinary special ed, I think you're going to see, again, a huge improvement. We did the school regionalization bill that was the first major overhaul in 25 years. So we've actually we were on the way until the pandemic hit, Jeff, of driving these issues. These issues are the ones that have been around forever. When you looked at the path to progress, I remember talking to you, these are all things we all knew about.
Right.
All things that have to be addressed, but we have to have the political courage to step up and have the willingness to do this. I can tell you, I told somebody, and I know it drives mayors crazy, I said, my biggest mistake was not making the property tax cap 0. And people said, wow, that would have been hard. I said, yeah, well, guess what? Paying your property tax bill is very hard too.
Tell me about it.
And look, Christie came in at 2.5%. I came in at 2%. And what you're seeing is communities living under that 2%. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, it's just natural. It's not a struggle. So, and in my home county, what that led to was more governments doing shared services because they had to get underneath the cap. So I think we need to, again, revisit that cap. And I know it's not going to make me popular, but really, high property taxes don't make anyone happy. So driving, like, I haven't been able to get, I had a bill S1, which was my shared service.
I remember that.
And it's 12 years I tried to pass it. I could get it out of the Senate, but never out of the Assembly. Well, the public is asking us to do what is needed here, which is really get some tough medicine, which when I said starve the beast or put the beast on a diet, is to get to where we're actually not wasting money. Because the worst part of all this, Jeff, is all the money that's honestly just being wasted, where we can be more efficient as a business. When people say government can't function like business, that's not true. They can if they want to. The problem is, no one really wants to change. We just want it less. Well, you're not going to get less without change.
Yep. No, you're definitely right. So one last question, Senator. In your long Senate career, which I think is about 20 years, what legislative victories did you find most gratifying, and which unsuccessful initiatives were your biggest disappointments?
Well, the work that I've done in the special needs community, I like to say we, the legislature, because no one does it on their own.
Right.
From increasing pay for people that work with special needs people, because the turnover rate was like 70-some%.
Wow.
And you're dealing with a very vulnerable population, to eliminating the word retarded. And people say, what's the big deal? I said, well, words are meant to praise or hurt. And my daughter, she knows what the word retarded is. Mm-hmm. She knows she has Down syndrome, but she's not retarded. She's just a little bit different.
Right.
And the work that we've done in that world, we created a disability caucus. And within that, we focused on transportation, which, oh, by the way, is everyone else's problem. We talked about housing, everyone's problem. We talked about employment, what everyone has. The disabled issues are the same as everyone else's, but they don't get the attention they deserve. So I'm most proud of what we've done. And look, I was the prime sponsor of the minimum wage bill. Paid family leave is something I'm extremely, extremely proud of, because, it works, and it has worked, and it's been a lifesaver for families at difficult times. And most disappointing was my S1, the shared services. We shouldn't have to be doing legislation to getting governments to provide better government at a better cost. You know, Jeff, I had a couple mayors come up to me 10 years ago, and they said, hey, he said, you know, we're sharing trash collection now. We're each saving $125,000 a year. And I said, I know I hurt the guy's feelings. I said, what do you want to star? I said, seriously, you got elected to do this.
Right.
I said, and you should have done it. You should have done it 8 years ago. Right. I said, but at least you got to the dance. I'm happy for you. You know?
Yeah, I guess most of them are afraid to face the political pressure of the people that live in their towns. That about wraps it up. And once again, I want to thank you, Senator, for joining us. And I know you and the society, Ralph, myself, will be in touch. We already are. And we look forward to having you again.
Jeff, thanks. And I can't thank the society enough for the service that they provided me in the 12 years I was Senate President, and the work that you guys do. You're one of the groups that are actually making a difference, a real difference. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening and watching. To learn more about the Sweeney Center for Public Policy, visit chss.rowan.edu/centers.